right. Good morning, everyone. Ross Ormond here with our guest today, Steve Badger. As a member of the Independent Insurance Agents of San Antonio and the Insurance Voice of South Texas podcast, we are very lucky to have one of the foremost voices in law and insurance related matters. So thank you, Steve, for being here. A quick introduction for those that don't know Steve. He's a partner of the Zell Law Firm in Dallas, Texas. For almost 30 years, Steve has been at the forefront of significant issues facing the commercial property insurance industry. He represents the commercial property industry in emerging risks, both as a plaintiff and in large loss catastrophe subrogation matters, and as a defendant in coverage matters involving weather-related litigation. Currently, Steve's practice is devoted entirely to leading the insurance industry response to the emerging hail risk. Although over the past couple years with COVID and most recently the winter storms that Texas and a lot of the country has had to endure, I think Steve is probably very busy if he wasn't busy already. So prior to this work, Steve has devoted a decade of his career to leading the $5 billion subrogation action arising out of the 9/11 terrorist attack. As a lead lawyer on the plaintiff's executive committee, Steve was involved in directing all aspects of the action on behalf of the entire group of property damage plaintiffs. As mentioned, Steve has recently become actively involved in the insurance industry's response to business interruption claims arising out of COVID-19, and as well as the very recent winter storms that hit the majority of the state of Texas. So without further ado, we'd like to welcome Steve Badger. Steve, thank you for being here.
Wow, sounds like I've done a lot over my career, huh?
Just a little bit.
Look, I'm just a simple insurance company lawyer. I'm just trying to make the world a better place for insurance companies. But I get involved in a lot of interesting stuff, and I appreciate you having me here today.
Well, as someone who has listened to many of your talks through the National Big I and IIAT, our state association, I find all of your talks interesting, both as an insurance agent and as an agency owner. So it's just a privilege to have you here. So, one of the couple things that a lot of our companies and insureds and agencies are dealing with right now is, of course, I'll bypass the COVID, since most of the stuff that we are, interested in today is the weather, the winter storms that hit a month or so ago, which was unprecedented. I would imagine was what most people would say for our state. So, in an event like this, in a catastrophic weather event, what types of coverage should homeowners and business owners have had in place and or should add now?
Yeah, the vast majority of claims that we see in Texas are weather related. So if I'm a Texas homeowner or a Texas business owner, I want to make sure I know what coverage I have when that inevitable hailstorm hits, or if I'm down in South Texas along the coast, when that hurricane hits. So the number one question I would ask in Texas is, how is my roof covered for hail damage? What is my deductible? Do I have replacement cost coverage? Are there any exclusions that might limit or restrict my coverage? I would want to know that. That's by far the most important issue in Texas, because policy forms are changing. We've had what we've called a hail litigation crisis. We have thousands and thousands of lawsuits across Texas for people claiming hail damage to roofs that the insurance industry doesn't believe is damaged. So as a result of that, policy coverages are changing in this area. So it's real important to know what coverage you have relating to your roof. And that's an easy question to ask your agent, because there are just a few endorsements and forms that would apply. Now we've got this whole nother area that we're concerned about with freeze. We never worried about what coverage I had if my pipes froze and burst. But now that's something we have to address. And that's a whole myriad of new issues that we're dealing with, because both in the residential and the commercial context, The policies vary. I mean, there are some policy forms out there for homeowners that provide absolutely no coverage for burst pipes. Other forms provide coverage. Same in the commercial context. We're seeing coverage provided for the typical apartment complexes or businesses that had a burst pipe and resulting water damage. But other situations, there is no coverage. So now you have to ask that question again also. If we have another freeze event and my pipes burst, am I going to be covered? And those are two simple questions to talk through with the agent. Coverage is available. You're going to pay for it, obviously, but you should know on the front end for those two significant perils, and then hurricane as well on the coast, what coverage you have.
That's great. As someone, both as a property owner and homeowner, commercial and residential, thankfully, I am an insurance agent, so I actually do read the policies and know what to cover. But I guess it also accentuates the fact that having an independent agent is helpful to read you through rather than going. Not that it's bad to go online, so to speak, to buy your insurance, but sometimes you don't know what you're buying if that's not what you do. One of the to kind of talk a little bit about the roof. Roofs are, and I know you've been heavily involved in drafting policy and getting registrations, bills to take form in our construction industry. Some have been passed. Some of them are hopefully maybe this session something happens. We don't know. But the efforts from our perspective are we love seeing you be a part of that. But some of the topics that we get as an agent from a day-to-day on the homeowners is the ACV replacement cost, but also the cosmetic roof exclusion. And more carriers we see are adding either a schedule or some sort of, hey, we're going to go ahead and slap this on. Now the notifications do go out, but sometimes as agents, it's our job to take a look at that. And some of the toughest conversations that you have to have as an agent is, hey, you've got a cosmetic roof exclusion and there's no structural damage to your metal roof, and I'm sorry, so that's always a tough conversation to have. So knowing what your policy says is, I think the takeaway from here, and it's something that I think more people now, more than ever, are actually looking at their policies, which I think is a really good thing. So.
It's critical, and I'll say the issues you've covered, which are all great topics, the most important one for homeowners is to ensure that their policy still provides replacement cost coverage. We are seeing more and more companies go to ACV, actual cash value only. So you're never going to get replacement cost coverage. So if you want to pay less for insurance, then great, get an ACV only policy. And your 20-year-old roof, you're only going to get paid maybe 50% of the value of the roof. But if you don't want to have to go out of pocket for that depreciated amount, you got to pay enough to get RCV coverage. So be sure to ask your agent to make sure you have a replacement cost value policy that will get you a new roof other than your deductible. And we should make a quick statement on that. This is one of my favorite topics. In 2019, we finally passed legislation in Texas making it clear that people must pay their deductibles. The contractor who promises when he knocks on your door to waive your deductible, he is enticing you to participate in an insurance fraud scheme. That is illegal in Texas, and we've made the law clear now that you must pay your deductible. Contractors cannot waive deductibles. And that's good because it protects you from the contractor who is going to do a crappy job to make up that $4,000 that he didn't charge you on the deductible. It protects you from not lying to your insurance company about what you spent on your roof. And it protects you from the scammers out there who promise you everything just to get their hands on your insurance money, and then they disappear.
Oh my gosh.
And that happens. I represented a class action of 120 homeowners in North Texas who had their insurance checks stolen, totaling over $516,000 by a contractor who said, I'll waive your deductible, give me your insurance check. I'll get your new roof done. And he disappeared. And that's a problem. So anyone who promises to waive your deductible is trying to entice you in an illegal insurance fraud scheme. Don't do it. Find a good local reputable contractor, pay your deductible. And if you can't pay it, if you don't have enough, there's companies out there now that will finance your deductible for you. There's an outfit called Fund My Deductible, and they will finance your deductible through the roofing contractor to help you get that done. That's pretty cool, isn't it? And that's
awesome.
and that grew out of our legislation because we knew there'd be a need for that. We put language in there that would allow an insurance company to accept a financing arrangement as reasonable proof of deductible payment. And now that company has stepped into that space to help Texas consumers who can't afford to pay their deductibles in full. So it's working really well, and we're happy about that.
That's awesome. God bless Texas.
Well, now we can talk about roofing contractor licensing, and God bless Texas there. We keep losing on that one, but we'll save that for another podcast.
Yeah, I was going to mention there's a registration bill that we were hoping that would probably get heard and passed, but like you said, I think that will open up a can of worms, and maybe for another day. But at some point, hopefully, something like that will exist to where we don't have, out-of-state folks or even the contractors, the ones that are out there to basically steal from the homeowners, from our people. So anyway, we won't touch that other than what we've already done. We'll move on. So, but I appreciate you bringing that up. So going back to the freeze and the snow and all the weather related claims that we're starting to see or have seen, and I would guess that we're probably going to be seeing these for quite some time. Is there any form of financial assistance from FEMA or other organizations that are available? And let's just say, hey, this policy doesn't cover this, or how can homeowners and business owners, get some financial relief or assistance?
Yeah, we hear that a lot because there's only so much coverage that our insurance companies provide. People have uninsured losses, either through exclusions or they just didn't buy coverage. And so their first stop has to be disasterassistance.gov, which is the FEMA website, disasterassistance.gov. You can go there, and if it's a declared disaster zone, which I think 77 counties in Texas were declared disasters for the freeze event, you can apply for assistance. There are FEMA grants there. And then if you're a small business, the US SBA at sba.gov, they have loans available for small businesses who suffered damage. So there are resources available to both individuals and businesses to cover their uninsured losses. And I think FEMA is pretty clear. You've got to submit your insurance claim, figure out what's covered, and then come back and tell them what's not covered and seek assistance there. So there are avenues for recovery. There are also some local programs. So, Google your local programs as well and see what's available there.
That's great. I know I can't imagine, although you probably know what the current dollar amount statewide of claims filed for this one storm. I don't want to put you on the spot, but maybe or have an idea. I have no clue. So.
Yeah, the numbers have varied. The first estimate where we heard was around $18 billion. And then there was an official announcement that came out that it looks like it's going to be 31.5 or 32.5 billion. Some people are saying 100 billion, but so it's going to be a lot. If I had to guess from what I'm hearing, the $30 billion number sounds good. But for some context, with Hurricane Harvey, the Hurricane Harvey damage total was around 10 billion. So, this is like a hurricane that hit the entire state. And some people are describing it that way. And, we have huge hail events, tornadoes. Those are $2 billion events. But what's important is that Texas leads the country year after year in natural disaster totals. And so we are the #1 state. I've got a chart that I use in all my presentations. We are proudly #1 in disasters, and that bodes well for guys like me in the disaster business. But yeah, it's this is the state for disasters, and now we've added freeze events to our list of disasters. I never imagined that would be the case.
Wow. Yeah, I guess, I can see it in the, as an agent, the hardening market in the property. It's tough. Higher deductibles getting put on, minimum, declines, non-renewals, simply because of the events that we've been having. And historically speaking, and I can say this for South Texas at least, we've been a fairly safe risk over the past decade until the last 2 or 3 years. Between 2016 hailstorm, 2019, 2020, it's starting to add up, and we're starting to see it, which does make for some tough conversations with policyholders on their property renewal.
15-20% annual renewal increases. And that is just purely a function of what we're seeing. And I can assure you that most of my clients, their loss ratios in Texas are over 100%, which means they're paying out in claims more than they're collecting in premiums. And that doesn't bode well for long-term success. And that's why we're seeing premium increases.
Yep, that's right. That's exactly right. Well, that's a good segue. For how does one recover, and what are some tips for filing claims that for freeze and weather related? Sometimes we hear, hey, yeah, this wasn't that bad of a deal. Maybe I'll wait some time, see if I really need to file a claim, or what are some suggestions that you would have?
Yeah, well, number one, don't wait. File a claim right away. You have an obligation to file a claim, to preserve evidence, to document the conditions. So get the claim on file and get the insurance company out there. That's key. And that's really important to do that. Number two, be patient and be cooperative. Work with your insurance company, give them the chance to do the right thing. 98% of all insurance claims in Texas are resolved amicably between the insured and the insurance company. So be patient, work with the insurance company. There's no need to immediately run out and hire claim advocates or lawyers or people. Give the insurance company a chance to fairly adjust the claim. Now, if they're not, and if you believe your insurance company is not being reasonable in its measure, there's things you can do. You can hire a public adjuster who, on a contingency fee basis that you'll have to pay out of pocket, will help you quantify the claim and negotiate with the insurance company for you. Or you can hire a lawyer, or you can go to something called the appraisal process, which is a way to resolve disputed insurance claims without needing an attorney. But do not hire a contractor to negotiate the claim. That also is illegal in Texas. Contractors cannot negotiate insurance claims. If they're going to tell you they can do that, they're violating the law. It's the unauthorized practice of public adjusting and unauthorized practice of law. So overall, be cooperative, recognize that you have burdens to satisfy under your policy to work with the insurance company. But again, if the insurance company you truly believe are not compensating you fairly, you do have remedies available, and you should pursue those.
Great. That's great. So, one of the things that, since we're on the topic of claims, with this freeze, we have a lot of tenants, maybe not necessarily landlords, right? So I'm a business. I don't own the building. I'm leasing a space, an office or a warehouse or whatever the case may be. And, I have a policy that covers all my stuff, or business personal property, contents coverage. And let's just say, hey, we have the fire sprinkler system or plumbing system froze during this big freeze, right? So this happens. We have a client or insured call, hey, I need to file a claim. Okay, it's water damage, busted pipe, and so we file the claim. So walk me through a scenario where that policyholder might be able to subrogate. Is there subrogation to the landlord? I mean, I know this is more a real estate. It's what's in the lease, but what kind of things are you seeing, and is this something that policyholders can expect or not?
Yeah, so subrogation is part of the insurance claim process. When an insurance company pays a claim, they have a right to turn around and sue whoever was at fault. And that's what I did for 20 years. I moved to New York, as you mentioned in the intro. My insurance company clients insured the World Trade Center. They paid billions of dollars to rebuild the World Trade Center. So after they paid that, they hired me to sue the airlines who allowed terrorists on their planes with prohibited knives, pepper spray, and mace. They sued me to sue the airlines for their negligence. They hired me to sue them for the negligence, and they hired me to sue the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for their responsibility as well. So that's what insurance companies have the right to do. And some insurance companies will do that for these Texas freeze events. Now, your only role as a business owner is that you can participate in that action for your uninsured losses. You can say, hey, I got a $25,000 deductible, or I don't have coverage for this or that. You can join that subrogation action, work cooperatively with the insurance company to seek a recovery from the responsible party. Now, who's responsible here is the big question for Texas freeze claims. For a burst pipe claim, that's going to be tough because our building standards here insulated for summer heat, not for winter cold. And so there's going to be a question as to whether contractors and architects were negligent or not in providing adequate insulation or safeguards for warmth to prevent burst pipes. And that will be an issue addressed in the courts. The other bigger issue is the liability of the power system in Texas for the shutdowns themselves. We've seen a lot of press about ERCOT and its potential responsibility. And we could talk for 30 minutes about what went wrong and who's responsible. There's no question that our energy system in Texas failed us, but it's a complex system. It's not like you're buying your power from PG&E like in California, and they make it, they distribute it, they produce it, they send it to you. It's all done by them. In Texas, you've got power generators, power distributors, power suppliers, and these are the ones we buy it from, and there's all these other people in between. So whether there's liability amongst any of those is a big question that's going to be hotly debated over the next decade. In fact, I review the new lawsuit filings every day across the state, and I've probably seen at least a dozen wrongful death lawsuits by families of people who froze to death in this storm, and they're suing ERCOT and others. And so it's going to be interesting whether the subrogation actions succeed is a real question, because I don't know how much money ERCOT has. They're really just a control room, and they sit there and they keep an eye on everything going on. Whether they have any assets or insurance that could be collected is really a tough, could be a tough battle down the road.
Yeah, no, that's great. It's I know a lot of families and a lot of folks in the state of Texas were, severely impacted by this storm. And, as an agency that has insured power distribution for many, many years, it's gonna be interesting to see how these things end up. So, and the subrogation, I appreciate you going through. I sometimes get ahead of myself and, hey, everyone knows what subrogation is, and that's truly not the case. But so thanks for pointing that out and explaining that a little bit. What would you say is one thing maybe we have learned from this storm, from this winter storm?
Well, on a large statewide level, that we were woefully unprepared, obviously, as a Texas energy grid to address this. So that's the bigger issue. From an insurance perspective, I think the lesson here is, and it's a similar lesson that we've learned with COVID, is that we've got to always be thinking about what risks are out there that we need to insure against. And there's lots of businesses in Texas who did not have insurance for their COVID risk, and the vast majority of those claims are getting denied, and the courts are siding with the insurance companies because there was just not an intent to provide coverage. So there's something new now that we're going to have to address in the world of risk for the future. Same with Texas Freeze. So as an insurance agent, you always got to be thinking about what types of exposures your clients might see and try to be on the cutting edge of ensuring that your clients either buy that insurance or make a conscious decision not to. Because we are seeing more and more lawsuits against agents because there's not coverage, and the creative plaintiffs lawyers are saying, but you didn't tell me that I wasn't covered for this. And we're going to see more of that. So the agents in Texas have to be mindful of the growing litigation risk that they face. And I think that can be addressed by creatively thinking about risk, sitting down with clients, advising them of what they could buy, what it's going to cost, and then most importantly, make a record of what you talk to your clients about. So when they turn down the coverage because it's more expensive, you can show them down the road, I told you so.
Yeah, no, that's great advice to all the agents out there. I know our E&O carrier really likes it, the fact that when we recommend a coverage, it's not taken, we have a signed document and there's a record of it. Some of the lines of coverage that are becoming more mainstream, I would say, which I won't get into outside of your area of practice, but cyber is such a huge thing right now, and we still find business owners and corporations still have some reluctancy to it, and the price is going up. So, but that is something that is great advice across the board. Talk to your clients, talk to your insurance policyholders, even down to the homeowner level. Hey, this is that's covered. Education, educate them, and I think is what I'm hearing from you is educate your clients, because at the end of the day, you would rather have them come back to you and say, hey, Steve, thanks for letting me know about this. I'm so glad, and this was covered, rather than, hey, I need to sue someone because, hey, this was never explained to me, or in that kind of situation, it's more stress, it creates a bad atmosphere all the way around. So great advice. So I guess one of the last things I want to bring up is, we kind of touched on it a little bit, but how can Texas be better prepared for the next freeze, or maybe even, I have no idea. We've had such kind of weird weather over the last couple of years. Maybe there's a hurricane. Hopefully we have a light hurricane season this year. But there's could be lots of things attributed to that. I won't use a buzzword, but I will. Global warming or whatever the case may be. We've just had, the weather has been changing, and so Texas, being a very large state that we are, how can we be better prepared for these types of events in the future?
Yeah, from an insurance perspective, you just have to know your coverages, I would say. I mean, you must know what you're covered for going into these events. I mean, it's just critical. And I see all the time on the claims side, my client says, I'm sorry, there's just not coverage for this. And the business owner, the homeowner, just simply did not know. So a little bit of prevention on the front end is really the key. From just a personal perspective, right? We have to know that we're going to face these events. So have a plan, right? Have a plan on what you're going to do. I mean, I know in the future, if there's any indication of cold weather, I'm going to go out and buy 30 big beach towels and 3 rolls of duct tape, and I'm wrapping the crap out of everything, right? I mean, so there's stuff like that. We got to pay attention on the front end now. And in fact, a lot of policies, as you know, require you to take reasonable precautions to prevent freezing of your pool equipment or things of that nature. So before that event, what was reasonable was probably not much because we didn't have an event like this. But when the next one hits, what's reasonable the second time may be different. And people may be held to a higher standard of taking precautionary matters because we've been through this before. So we got to do something. That's really the key. Be prepared.
That's great. Yeah. And, as digital and we all have our phones on us, I feel like all the time. I always encourage our clients and friends to take pictures of, hey, this is what I did, or, hey, there's we have this water that's coming in. We're doing our best to mitigate the damage, reasonable care, videos, and take a couple pictures. Again, it does help, and I know our insurance companies that we work with appreciate that. So, and it's just a little thing. So
it's a huge thing. Documenting the condition of your property prior to the loss. I mean, every business should, and every home should have a photo diary of what their place looks like. I mean, you should have several hundred photos of what your home looks like and just keep them on the cloud. Because if your house burns down or is damaged in a hurricane or tornado, what's the best way to document what was there than photographs showing your closet and all the clothes in it and your furniture and everything else? So it's great advice. Keep a photo diary of your assets.
Awesome. Well, very good. Hey, Steve, I think that about does it for today. I can't thank you enough for being here. I do really enjoy anytime I get the chance to see you speak. I read your articles. For our audience that has not seen Steve live and in person, I recommend it when we can get back to that. And also, is there a way they can read maybe or see some of your content that you would like to get out there to everyone?
Yeah, thanks for asking. Our website is zelle.com. zelle.com. We were around long before the bill pay people. They've stolen our name, but Zelle.com is our website. And then we have a page called What the Hail, Zelle.com/What the Hail, or you can click on it from our main page. And there are hundreds of articles and podcasts and video links and all kinds of information about all the work we do representing the insurance industry, and then my work representing consumers against bad contractors. So all kinds of information there about anything and everything relating to hail and weather-related claims. We also have a page on COVID issues, and now we have a page on Texas freeze claims as well. So it's all on our website, lots of info there. And if you don't find what you're looking for, send me an email. My email address is on my website profile there. I probably get 50 emails a day from people just asking me random questions about things. I sit down every night with a glass of wine and answer as many as I can. So feel free to reach out. And if I can't answer it, I certainly have a network of people I can refer you to. So feel free to reach out. Lots of good info that we're happy to share with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And again, Steve, you are, from a personal note, I love what you're doing for our industry, and keep up the good work and with our legislators in Austin. Again, we really appreciate you being here. And again, audience, for those listening, we reach out to Steve if y'all have anything. Look him up, and that's it. So Steve, we appreciate it. Have a good day. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks a lot. See you.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.